We call this meeting of the City Council and WPCA to order. For the record, today is Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. We are in the City Hall Auditorium, and all of our council members are present and in person this evening. So before we get into the agenda, could we kindly stand and pledge the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
All right, I'm going to juggle the agenda around a little bit for this evening because we do have a guest presenter here. So I am going to move items number 8 and 9 up and take them right after the public comment. So let me open with a motion to open the meeting to the public.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Avane. Second by Councilwoman Spino, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anyone from the public wishing to address the council at this time? Okay. All right, then, as I'd indicated, item number 8, we'd like to move this up on the agenda. So this is a presentation from the Municipal Redevelopment Authority, Executive Director David Corris, and William Wallach, Economic Development Director for the City of Torrington, to discuss the newly created Connecticut Municipal Redevelopment Authority, or MRDA, and the process for Torrington to become a member. So if you would, please. I don't know if you want to do the introductions, William, or you're good? All right.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Mayor, for moving this up. I do appreciate that, and sorry for anyone who was waiting for other agenda items, but I promise we won't take long. Thank you for the opportunity to come here and share. We are in the process of doing a roadshow all across the state to help folks understand what the Municipal Redevelopment Authority is, how we were created, what we're meant to do, and how municipalities can join us in partnership. So long story short, we were established by the General Assembly of the state of Connecticut in 2019, but not funded and not launched at that time. And so we have sat on the shelf essentially for the past 5 years. And in 2024, received our funding from the state of Connecticut and our board populated in order to achieve our mission, which is to help cities and towns grow their housing around their downtowns or their transit stations. And so we are based on a fundamental assumption that there are municipalities, large and small, throughout the state of Connecticut that see the value in creating more housing in key locations within their community, most particularly within their walkable downtowns or around their train or bus stations. Because they recognize that that meets the needs of their population, that it creates more shoppers for local businesses, more taxes for local government, et cetera. And so we are designed to provide a whole series of tools to help municipalities do that. And that includes everything from technical assistance and support to come up with your development strategy, to figure out your infrastructure that will be most supportive of that strategy, and also with funding to help with implementation. And so we have a $60 million state bond authorization with a proposal for an additional $30 million. And that money can go directly into housing development through gap financing for a private developer, or it can go into public infrastructure or other improvements that support that housing. It could be streetscape, it could be ground floor retail, it could be trail system or parkland, whatever is necessary to ensure that as the housing within your community center grows, that it increases and enhances quality of life for all the residents of the community. And so it's a fairly straightforward process whereby we can engage with member municipalities. First and foremost, there is a opt-in resolution that I believe you've seen, which is just raising your hand to say, we're interested in working with you. We are giving and getting an indication that we're going to roll up our sleeves together and see whether or not there's something we could work on together. Once a municipality opts in, then we take a look at your zoning and determine whether or not it will likely result in housing units within your downtown. And so we look at things like parking ratios and the relationship between a proposed building and the sidewalk. But let me be very, very clear. We don't have any authority over municipal zoning, right? We can't tell you what to do. We are not coming in with dictates. We have no power to usurp local land use control. We will come in and we will either certify your zoning as is, or we may make some recommendations about ways in which we think it could be tweaked to better enhance the likelihood of the kind of development that you're looking for in a community. And then it's up to the municipality whether or not you take those recommendations. It is completely still in the local control. Once we get to zoning that we agree and certify, which may be your existing zoning, right? We haven't rolled up our sleeves. We haven't looked into the zoning text, but we very well may look at Torrington's downtown zoning and say, yeah, you're there. We can check that box. Once we certify the zoning, then we enter into an MOU with the mayor that establishes the boundaries and the parameters of the development district. It will be localized within the downtown. We cannot operate out in single-family neighborhoods. We cannot operate away from the hub of the bus system. So it will be very localized within the core of the community. Once the boundaries are set, then you, the municipality, or any developer therein who's in compliance with zoning can apply to us for funding. And then we take those on a project by project basis. We do expect that there will be dozens of municipalities that are enrolled. And so it's going to be a first come, first served basis. $60 million will only go so far. But while we're entertaining, project funding applications, we'll be working, hand in glove with your economic development team, with your local leadership to provide any, technical expertise and support that we have available to us, both either in-house or with our consultants. And so we've only been up and running for 6 months. And so we are in the very early stages. We've spent a lot of our time kind of getting this new quasi-public authority established and the governance and policies and procedures around our actions set. And then we've been going around and talking to municipalities like you all and looking for enrollment. We just had our first 2 municipalities enroll over the last week or so. And so we are very much at that stage where I suspect we're going to go from 0 to about a dozen in very short order. And I sincerely hope that Torrington is an early partner. From my time as deputy commissioner at the Department of Economic and Community Development, I'm very familiar with some of the opportunities in the core of the community. I was involved in some of the brownfield funding that went into the Penrose project. And so I know the potential that exists here, and I know the opportunities for targeted, appropriate growth that reinforces the objectives that you're trying to achieve. And we hope that we can help you in that effort.
Thank you, Mr. Corus. Are there questions?
Yeah.
You talked really fast, so.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay. So the quasi, so you're under DECD.
No, so we are an independent quasi-public authority. We're one of like 14 or so that exist in the state of Connecticut. We're governed by a board of directors. 7 of those board members are members of the governor's cabinet, so commissioners of DECD, Department of Housing, Transportation, Energy Environmental Protection, Secretary of the Office of Policy and Management, Commissioner of Public Health, and Commissioner of Labor. And then we have 3 gubernatorial appointees and 6 legislative appointees. And so there's a 16-member board that governs our operations. We are funded presently by the state for both operating and capital support. And then over time, we will try to become more independent of state funding. But we're not under or affiliated directly with any single department, but we have leadership from 7 departments on our board. Yeah.
Other questions? Before I ask for those questions, I just wanted to make sure, you're right, he did speak very quickly. As you heard Mr. Corus say, he worked with the city of Torrington on the Penrose project, Riverfront over on Franklin Street. Early stages of the Torrington Standard Plant on 70 North Street. He's been in Torrington a number of times, working with my office, working with the Economic Development Office. We're tremendously grateful for his leadership when we were seeking assistance and funding from the state. It's a high level of confidence that I invited Mr. Corrs here to meet all of you and hear your questions. So, go ahead. You had a question, Mr. Kavanaugh?
Yeah, well, so you, could you explain one more time, what is exactly that you're doing? You've got $60 million to play with. You have, right, you're saying your target goal is 12 municipalities to distribute this?
No, I'm just saying that that's what I think we're gonna have signed up like within the next few weeks.
By signing up, that means what, Mr.
Yeah, so signing up, the initial action that is taken by the local legislative body to join MRDA is nothing other than an indicator that you want to more formally talk and work together. It is when we get to an MOU with the chief elected official where we establish the boundaries of the development district, then we can fund projects within those boundaries. And they could be either infrastructure projects requested by the municipality or one of its agents, or it can be gap financing directly to a developer with the ultimate objective of housing and vibrant, walkable, mixed-use downtowns. We do not have an affordability requirement. And so we are one of the few public programs that exist at the state level that can fund and support housing of all types.
Oh,
Does the application come from the developers to you?
Yeah, so developers can apply directly to us. We've talked a little bit, we're still several months away from that process. So we have talked a bit amongst our board about, how to make sure that we don't bypass the municipality in that process. Ultimately, every project has to be in conformance with your zoning. So there has been like a public vetting, but we will, we'll engage with our municipal partners so that, a developer won't be a surprise coming to us, but they can seek funding from us directly.
You're right, 60 million won't go far
No.
with all, 169 municipalities.
Yeah, so of the 169, realistically, because you have to have either a downtown, a train, or a bus rapid transit station, and we actually cannot work in Hartford, East Hartford, or the surrounding 6 municipalities. So we start with 161 eligible. That number probably drops to something around 100 or a little less than when you add on the downtown parameter. And some of those will not join, but I do suspect that we will ultimately have 50, 60 partner municipalities, but at this stage, where we are at this moment in time is there's about 28 municipalities that are thinking through this first step. And 2 have thus far taken that first step just in the last couple weeks.
I don't mean to. So the criteria for the application, would the developer have a match or is there a percentage of the project?
Yeah, so
Well,
the short answer is to be determined. The longer answer is once we determine that the developer has maximized their equity contribution and other potential sources of private debt and public support, we will tailor our commitment to that project, our loan to that project in a way that it enables it to move forward. So we can be very flexible in terms of term and rate, but we want to make sure that folks are maximizing, other sources first so that we are truly filling a gap that remains.
thank you.
Can you lend any insight into the types of financing, rate, term that would the city would benefit from or be available to take advantage of?
So in terms of infrastructure.
Yeah.
So infrastructure, we have even more flexibility. We could grant funds for public infrastructure. We may, when we get to the MOU stage, establishing the parameters of the development district, that would be the time at which we would determine a cost share or what the local commitment would be. And there would be some level of local commitment, but it will vary community by community, and it will be linked to a community's grand list, their ability to raise revenue, right? It will be cognizant of their local conditions to
Sure.
generate.
I understand all
Yeah.
of that. I'm curious to know what the benefit would be financially from a loan structure position. Why would it make sense for us to finance anything with you or through your agency versus bonding? Or
So,
just
yes,
planning,
Sure.
setting aside?
sure. So, I mean, a developer would typically, we will be more favorable relative to private bank rates, right? So,
Well, that's what I'm hoping.
yeah, absolutely, we would
Yeah.
be. Whether or not our terms would be more favorable relative to your bonding, I think it depends. I think it could be instances where we're just granting the funds, right, for particular projects, in which
Right.
case it would be. In other communities, it may just because they're, trying to get around a bond cap or trying to reduce, that column of their general obligations and not have as much debt service in that category and can categorize their relationship with us
Right.
differently, right?
So are there advantageous terms, for example, where you're looking at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50-year financing at 2% or at a
Yep.
relative basis to inflation or
Yep. So the
number above that? I'm looking for something tactile.
Yeah.
I get everything that you're saying.
Yeah,
But there's got to be an advantage for us to go through
for sure.
that financing, because we do that ourselves
Yeah, of course. So,
without having to pay an intermediary. For example, USDA,
Yeah.
SBA, there's a loan premium that you pay for that guarantee.
Yeah.
That's embedded within it. So where is that catch with you?
yeah. It is most likely that municipally driven projects for infrastructure would be grants rather than loans.
Okay,
Most likely.
okay.
Not exclusively.
That's an answer that
Yeah.
I can understand.
No,
Yes.
And
Right.
if I can too, because
There's an
I'm,
opportunity cost. there.
yeah, as I'm listening to the questions, when we look at those large tracts of property in the center of Torrington, the old Hotchkiss site
Sure.
on Water Street, the Nidec site, which, could be a phase 2 to the housing that we did on 100 Franklin, 211 High Street, the old Stop and Shop Plaza, the Hendy site. I mean, these are large tracts
Mhm.
where we're trying to attract a developer to these locations, with some incentives. I see this as another incentive for a developer. If it's that gap financing, if it's the
Mhm.
technical assistance.
Mhm.
You have somebody who worked as an economic development director and the deputy commissioner of DECD that can be at the table with a developer,
Mhm.
helping to cobble together, multiple forms of grant, financing, tapping into some of the other resources, a brownfield land bank or NVCOG. So
Yeah,
those are
There's
the things.
definitely, there's definitely a marketing component, right? And I didn't even get into the permitting piece, right? But we're going to do everything we can to support getting projects within our districts more expeditiously through the state permitting process. And I could go on and on about that, but for the sake of time, just say that we will be outwardly facing to the development community, and there will be developers who say, if I have access to low interest financing and permitting support, and I'm looking at 4 different places, I'm more likely to go into the district where I'm going to get those benefits in places like Torrington.
Other questions?
Thank you.
Good, great,
Well,
more.
Are you in the loop when it comes to discussing tax abatements for projects?
Yeah, so again, depending on the community, but in some instances, we will look to our local municipal partners to, put some skin in the game, and that could be through.
I feel like someone should go look at that.
Is Jamie here? Yeah,
Nice.
or Deputy Chief.
He's
You're
on.
calling, thank you. It did sound like a tree fell on the roof.
It did.
Or maybe
Or
my
a car.
office. It's my office. Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem at all. So some communities have actually requested that one of the tools that we could help provide is support and templates around tax fixing agreements so that they're not negotiating them on a one-off basis, developer by developer, but rather we help advise them on a strategy within a localized area of the community that should meet the developer's needs and not, go, any more subsidizing than would be necessary.
But there's also never a point in time like the Connecticut Siting Council where you will just decide that,
Can't,
because that is
Yeah.
absolutely
can't.
a problem with us.
Yeah, no, we have.
For us and our.
Yeah, of course. No, as I would expect it would be. We have absolutely no authority to overrule or usurp local control. So at the end of the day, the authority on whether or not to grant the tax agreement, for example, the zoning change, for example, same process, your approvals were merely advisory. And hopefully will help think through it in a way that results in the kind of development that you most want to see.
Thank you.
What does this tie our hands in terms of doing? Does this mean that any developer, we have to go through this
Nope.
agency?
No, absolutely not. No. Just another resource, a resource that,
Making a commitment.
We
for
are
them
not.
To develop through you that.
Nope.
anything going forward. Okay.
Nope,
Absolutely
you're
not.
merely opting in to make use of our tools when you so choose.
Thank you. You've brought up the subject with 28
Yeah.
different municipalities so far, and you've got hits on 2, correct?
Yeah.
So why have the 26 other ones not?
Oh, because everyone just got the template resolution like 3 weeks ago.
As we did,
So,
you mean,
yeah.
taking their time to decide whether to.
No, I wouldn't say they're taking their time. Some have it at their councils tonight, some have it next week, some, did an informational session at their February meeting with the expectation to vote on the March meeting. It's just, each one is moving through their local legislative process.
Okay, and so the 2 that were very quick to, what are the 2 communities that signed on so far?
Yep, Naugatuck and Derby were the fastest.
So we
Yeah.
have it on our,
But I will say within that 28, it is a range of community sizes, a range of community characters. It is not exclusively,
Distressed community.
not exclusively distressed, not exclusively large cities.
Yeah, I'm a little tired of people making presentations to us, reminding us that as a distressed community, you need to do this, that. and the
Yeah.
other thing.
No, this is a tool. This is a tool that is available to, as I said, 161 theoretically of the 169 municipalities. And those that want to take advantage of it, it will, but it's not uniquely for distressed communities, nor are they exclusively the early to act.
This is an agreement that we're going to vote on
no.
subsequent?
So I wanted
Oh.
Mr. Corus to do a presentation, give you the highlights of what this is. We'll do a public hearing, which you'll schedule this evening. We'll do this public hearing and then,
Okay, fair enough, thank you.
Yep. And I'm certainly available to answer any questions as you continue thinking about it.
Okay. I just wanna- It seems like, I just want to make sure that the purpose of the presentation was just for information.
Got it. Yep.
To open up the process, then to have a public hearing. The eventual vote, just like Naugatuck and Derby had completed, is the city council, as the government, will complete a certified resolution. That certified resolution is saying the city of Torrington wants to start the process of the regulations review. That regulations review could be a sign off from MRDA saying current regulations are status quo, they're fine, certified. That regulation review could say, we would be willing to certify the city of Torrington if the city of Torrington wants to make these regulation updates strictly for the boundaries of the downtown area that is under review.
Mhm.
So and there was a lot that was thrown on the table. I just want to make sure that today was informational.
Got it.
To then have a public hearing, and then for the city council at a later date, at a regular scheduled meeting, to pass that certified resolution or to consider the resolution to then start the review process. At the completion of the review process is when the mayor would enter into the agreement with MRDA. And that agreement then puts this tool at the city's disposal for developers, for the city to then consider as part of a development plan.
Okay, and typically, do you have, is there a term limit on these agreements that ultimately will come before a vote?
No, no municipality has asked for that.
Really?
Because no municipality wants to expire their access to our capital, right? So, because the zoning always remains within your local control, I mean, the agreement would expire if you were to unwind your zoning and say, we're no longer allowing housing in the downtown. But as long as your zoning that allows the housing in the downtown is in place, then, I encourage municipalities, you want our district to be as long lasting and as geographically expansive as we can define your downtown, because that maximizes the eligibility of projects that are in conformance with your zoning to gain access to our funding.
Mayor, do we have that map of downtown? Do we have that sort of circled?
We do. So the downtown district?
Yeah.
That's under our zoning regulations.
Yeah.
It is on our website, but I can make sure before we go into the public
Yeah.
hearing, you'll have those maps.
Yep.
Our opportunity zone map. Yes.
Yep.
Our
Okay.
municipal development plan map.
Oh.
These are all, they all, cover the same area.
Okay. So it's more inclusive than I was thinking.
The core, well, all of those are geographically the core downtown area.
Okay.
Yes, East Main Street, Main Street, maybe up Water Street to Midgeon Avenue.
I'm just curious.
I had
Yeah.
a question
I'm
about
unfamiliar
the
with it,
public
sorry.
hearing. Is it a requirement, to be certified to have a public hearing?
Yeah. So that the requirement of that first step is the adoption of the resolution by the local legislative body following a public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Because we do other MOUs without having a public hearing,
Yeah.
and do other resolutions without having.
Yeah, I think it's specifically designed to ensure that there is
Engagement.
at least the minimal engagement and affirmative action on behalf of the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the public. Because we want to know that we're in a partnership that has, willing partnership.
Your funding sources? Is it just Connecticut?
Yep. So we get an operating line item from the state, and then we have a bond authorization for the 60 million. And then as we get our loans back over time, origination fees with the private, recipients, et cetera, that'll ultimately become revolving. But right now it's exclusively state dollars.
Thank you.
Last call for questions. All right. Let's move into item number 9.
Great. Thank you
At
all.
this point, thank you very much. So item number 9 is I will entertain a motion to schedule a public hearing on Monday, March 3rd, to solicit citizen input regarding compliance with the requirements for municipalities opting in to join the MRDA as a member municipality in accordance with Section 8-169 of the Connecticut General Statutes. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Thank you. I heard Councilwoman Spino and seconded by Councilman Iveyne. Are there additional questions or comments before we vote? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll see you again on the 3rd. All right, going back up into item 2. I will entertain a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes from January 21st, 2025.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman Spino, and seconded by Councilman Iveyne. Questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, so did I really have 3 abstentions? Did I have a quorum?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, who's lying?
Oh, all right. So for the record, the abstentions were Councilman Cavanero, Councilman Iveyne, and Councilman
Abstain.
No, I didn't have a quorum then. How do we have
I
minutes?
wasn't here, I know that.
That was on the 27th we're talking about, right?
What?
January 21st.
21st. All right.
You were all
I
here.
was here. Now we're on the wrong date. Sorry, Mayor.
There.
Drake and David were absent.
I was not,
Dave and I abstained.
I was on
Okay.
plane.
So the abstentions are Drake Waldron and Councilman Waldron and Councilman Oliver.
My apologies.
That's all right. So, and it's so early still. This motion passes. Item 3, I will entertain a motion to reappoint the following Flood and Erosions Control Board members for a 3-year term set to expire on January 31st, 2028. We have Greg Mealy, Donna Greco, Donovan Riley, and Tom Tellman.
So moved.
Wait,
Second.
with Greg Parasino, James Babinski, Diane Carroll, and Starley Arias. So it's a full motion. I heard Councilwoman Ruette and seconded by Councilman Oliver. Questions or comments on this motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4A, I'll entertain a motion to appoint Police Chief William Baldwin as a member of the Torrington Area Health District Board of Directors for the remainder of a term set to expire January 8th, 2027.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Iveyne, seconded by Councilwoman Spino. Questions or comments on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. 4B, I'll entertain a motion to reappoint Jessica Magda and Jessica Wright as members of the Torrington Area Health District Board of Directors for terms that will expire on January 8th, 2028.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. I heard Councilwoman Spino, and I think I heard Councilman Cavagnaro. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, I'll entertain a motion to approve the mayor's reappointment of Diane Holland to the Board of Assessment Appeals as a regular member for a term set to expire December 5th, 2027.
Moved.
Second.
He moved.
Councilman Cavagnaro and Councilman Waldron.
was loud.
All right. Questions or comments? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. A vote to accept the following mayoral appointments as regular members of the Veterans Advisory Committee. Brian Baratko and Deputy Fire Chief David Tripp to fulfill the remainder of terms set to expire September 30th, 2026. And Battalion Chief Tom Sterling to fill the remainder of a term set to expire September 30th, 2027. And Rick Dalval and Linus Vinklaskus to a 4-year term expiring September 30th, 2028.
Thought you were doing it separately, but
You know what? It was one board, and I thought we could get it
no
all.
worries.
Thank you.
So moved.
Thank you. And seconded by Councilman Iveyne. Questions or comments? It's nice to see this board repopulated. I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And greatly appreciate the fire department showed up strong for those reappointments. So item 7, I'll entertain a motion to accept the following mayoral appointments as regular members of the Economic Development Commission. Travis Lipinski and Arlene Gonzalez are to fill the remainder of a 5-year term set to expire February 9, 2026. Maria Sock is to fill the remainder of a 5-year term expiring February 9, 2027. Emily Jury to fill the remainder of a 5-year term set to expire February 9th, 2028. John Fiorello and Tamara Christensen are to fill the remainder of 5-year terms set to expire February 9th, 2029. And last, Tom Hirschko and Cindy Sherwood for a 5-year term set to expire February 9, 2030.
So moved.
So
Thank
moved.
you, Councilwoman Spino, second by Councilman Iveyne. Questions or comments? Another board, it's good to see populated. I'll call this motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move into item 10. I will open the floor for discussion concerning a lease agreement with the Torrington Tax Collector and turn this over to Corporation Counsel.
Good evening, council members. So the way this came up, the tax collector's services agreement needs to be amended because they're switching banks from M&T Bank to Torrington Savings Bank, which we think is a good thing. So the change for that is because they need to maintain a line of credit at a bank, so they're moving it. So they're going to change from M&T to Torrington Savings, and also the bank where they deposit, the tax receipts. So in reviewing the Fourth Amendment, there's a paragraph that states that the parties have amended the lease agreement described in Section 5 of the Third Amendment to extend the term, and a copy of the amended lease agreement is attached to this Fourth Amendment as Exhibit A. So counsel for the Torrington tax collector sent me a proposed lease amendment. And so doing my research, because I wasn't here previously, I went back and looked at the third tax collector, the third amendment to the tax collector agreement that had a similar clause that said there will be a third amendment to the lease attached here too, and there was nothing attached. So I think what happened was that the third amendment to the lease agreement was never completed, never executed. So I just started thinking about it and looked at it, and the tax collector has been paying $350 a month rent for the space that they occupy on the first floor since 2015. And I think the background then was things were a little bit in upheaval. The previous tax collector, there were a lot of issues looking for a new tax collector, wanted them to be in City Hall. So an agreement was reached then that that's what the rent would be. And that's what it's been ever since then.
Bless you.
When I looked at the different documents, I thought, well, maybe we should be charging more rent. That seems like a pretty good deal. So I floated that idea with the mayor, and she agreed, yeah, we should talk about that. So I had discussions with the council for the tax collector about that. Their position is that had that third amendment been executed, which would have taken us through 2027, it would have maintained the rent at $350 a month. I couldn't find anything in any of the documentation available to me, either hard copy or in the computer, that really indicated that that was what the agreement would have been back then, which was what, 2023? Because that agreement was extended from May 12, 2023 to May 11, 2027. So we've had some back and forth with the tax collector's attorney. We proposed to them, let's go up to 700 a month. Let me see if I can get that email. So our proposal was $700 a month commencing on May 12, 2025 through May 11, 2026, and then increasing to $1,400 a month commencing on May 11, 2026 through May 11, 2027. And that covers the new extension period of the tax collector services agreement. And our thinking, the mayor's and my thinking was, okay, and at that point, everything's on the table. We can, because, from my view, my experience as probate judge, I know the probate court pays rent based on a square footage.
Yeah.
So much per square foot. And it's like $18 a square foot. So it's significantly higher. So that just got my wheels turning that, maybe it's time to increase the tax collector rent. So again, we made that proposal. They came back and offered to pay $700 a month for the remainder of the current tax collector agreement, which would run till May 11, 2027. So they're saying, well, we'll agree to pay $700 a month, but for the next 2 years, as opposed to our proposal, $700 a month, and then increase to $1,400 a month for the last year. So, we thought, well, let's bring it to the council. I told them, the council would have to approve it. And again, their attorney is pretty convinced that he had an agreement with the former corporation council that it would stay at $350 a month. But again, we can't find anything to support that. The mayor was at the meeting when they discussed it. She doesn't remember that being discussed.
Yeah.
Interesting, the attorney recently, and I should have printed it, but he recently sent me an email with emails back and forth between him and and Attorney Michelle, and really in the gist of it, they were talking mostly about extending the term, and also there was an issue with taxes that are uncollectible, like lots that have been maybe abandoned.
Mhm.
And so because the tax collector by contract has to pay the city 100% of the taxes, she has to pay us that, even
Mhm.
though she's never gonna collect them, ever.
Yeah.
So part of
Yeah.
the previous contract dealt with that issue. That was the real substance of it. The attorney did send to me a copy of what he said were the notes of the meeting he had. And he said something like, well, if you can read my chicken scratch, this kind of shows that the agreement was to leave the rent alone. The mayor and I both looked at it and we didn't think it said that. In fact, we thought it said something like amount to be set or something like that.
You
It was,
allowed-
it just wasn't clear.
Yep.
Again, this attorney, I have no reason to doubt him. His memory is we had an agreement.
Right.
We're saying, we don't know, but we think it should be increased.
But we're the landlord.
Right.
At the same, so just to insert, the fact is, we're the only private tax collection service in the state. Other municipalities have it integrated into their
Mhm.
budget. We are fortunate, I mean, having been there during that difficult time with the previous tax collector. It's a service to the citizens of our town. I don't think that the rent is all that important to me. I think it's very different than the probate judge or the probate court because we are the only private tax collector and we get 100% of our
Mhm.
tax revenue where many municipalities do not. So I guess I'm okay with, if they're okay with, an increase, but I just want to remind people that, this is unusual for a municipality to have a private tax collector. It has worked for us
Mhm.
based on the fact we get 100% of our tax revenue. Was it as big of an issue? But I do think renewing the lease, if they're agreeable and amenable to having an increase, but I wouldn't want to have it's been having been here before, it was very adversarial. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It is not now. And we have gotten really positive comments from people, even though they're collecting taxes, which nobody wants to do. But anyway, I just throwing that in as a fact and the difference between the probate court and a tax collector office being in our city hall is, I think, very different.
Michael, what square footage is occupied by that office right now?
1,080 square feet.
Okay. So they would be closer to almost 2,000 a month market for that
Right.
same square footage, correct?
Yeah.
So my point simply is there's nowhere they can go to get a rent less attractive than even what we are counter arguing.
You want to send people to another. One of the.
I don't,
when
they're
they
not gonna.
When they renovated this building, the intent was to have all the services embedded in this.
Me?
And,
Oh,
yeah,
because
Sorry. Well, the point simply is, and they're a captive audience. And they're utilizing space in the city, and they are a private entity similar to the situation that the probate court had. So for them to only be paying $350 a month, and even though we get 100%, and I get that the real crux of the matter here is the 100% collection of taxes, no doubt. But when we're going through the budget process and taking off $1,000 line items, I think it reflects poorly on us that we're not going to go out and get at least a close to market rent for the space that we are leasing within City Hall.
if it's an amenable agreement, that's all. We don't want.
I don't want it to be adversarial, but
And we don't want them to leave City Hall.
but the other point is they can't find that square footage at that lease.
I
I
agree.
know that.
Right.
So we should at least get closer to a market rate for leasing that space.
And yeah, and you know, and again, I think the thinking of the mayor and I was that that would be negotiations that would happen in 2027.
Right.
Fine.
Because even agreeing, even if they would agree, 700 for the next year and
Yeah.
then 1,400 after.
I'm fine
is
with that.
Still way below
That's my
market.
point.
Right. And any
then-
discussion about getting up to market would happen down the road. It's
Absolutely.
still a good deal.
Oh, it's still a great deal and the services are still here, but the point is, why wouldn't you do this?
Yeah.
At least to
And-
clarify it.
Yeah, and I think that the other point that Corporation Council and I were discussing was we wanted this on the table because that contract expires in 2027. However, negotiation of the next term starts in 2026.
Mhm.
You know, so 1 year from now, you know, we will be talking about what does that contract look like?
Mhm.
And I wanted to make sure that the people sitting at the table here remember, oh yeah, and there's that lease piece to this as well.
Mhm.
And I do agree with Councilwoman Ruette. You know, the collection services are far superior to what our experience was prior to TTC LLC.
100%.
And we most certainly did recognize the value of having that office here at City Hall. It is convenient to the assessor's office. It is convenient to the city clerk's office. Those are offices that are, that work very closely with the tax collector. But we also learned during the pandemic that all those businesses that we are so accustomed to doing face-to-face, people are quite comfortable doing with this. You know, the lines are not lined up out the door every day. People have trust and confidence in the new collectors. They're not new anymore. They've been with us for 10 years. They're comfortable leaving a check in the drop box outside the door. They're comfortable going online and paying their bills. So to the point of needing them to be in City Hall, I would even say that might not necessarily be the case anymore. You know, those services are collection services.
Yeah.
So, but again, the proposal that the counter to our request for the increase, which we greatly appreciate that they did entertain our request, was we'll do 700 effective May, and we'll renegotiate the next lease in 2026.
Say that again? Our proposal?
Our
Theirs.
proposal, their counter to our
Oh,
proposal.
their proposal was 700 a month until May 11, 2027.
Right,
So
but we
two-
start negotiating
What-
late 2026. We should, yes.
Yeah.
Is everybody good with that? What do you think?
So, yeah, so I think you know, the mayor and I talked about it and decided really it's up to you. It's your decision. And I could either communicate back to the attorney and accept their proposal. So, okay, 700 a month for the next 2 years. Or I could say the council felt that 700 for this year, you know, 2025 to 2026, but 1,400 going forward. And then say to them, this is what the council decided. It's, you know, not my decision, not the mayor's decision. It's up to
Mhm.
you. And then, and I think to your point, then see what they do.
Well, that's
They-
exactly
they-
it.
They could say, well, you know, thank you, but we're gonna leave.
Right.
Well, whatever cost that we apply to those services, will that just increase their costs when we negotiate anyways?
Their costs do go up every year.
Yeah.
We do actually pay for those services. It's
Yeah.
not just that they collect 100% and keep
Right, I-
whatever. We do pay for those services. I want to say it's somewhere around $400,000 a year.
I'm just trying to mirror other municipalities. You have people coming into
Sure.
Torrington. Where do you pay your taxes? City Hall. I would hate to have them, you know, leave City Hall. It's a perspective, you know, most people don't even know it's a private tax collection service.
Right.
And all they know is that, you know, money goes to the revenue that we have to run our budget. And we're talking about if it's, you know, even if it's $1,000 a month, it's $12,000. So when you talk about, you know, looking for other revenue, I mean, it's 12,000 in a budget that's it's pretty insignificant.
Not when we're
But-
setting the budget though, Ann. We look through line by line by line.
For 12,000, well.
We do that for 1,200 at times, you
Yeah,
know.
and I
we s-
appreciate that.
Yeah,
You know, and I.
that's all I'm
appreciate it,
saying. To
but
be
I-
fair to all our taxpayers and everybody in the community, I don't think that we can
I
just sit
just don't
there.
want to go back to you were not serving on the council at that time, but it was a very difficult time with our.
I was the
previous-
banker of the tax collector, so I know it very well.
Okay.
Whether I'm on the council or not is
Yeah,
immaterial.
all right. That's all I have to say, but I would support it going through the 2027. They're amenable to the 700 a month.
Mayor's.
If you're looking, at least that's my opinion.
So this was just the discussion portion.
Yeah.
So if there are no other questions, I'm going to move into the action item, which would be item 11.
Okay, can I have one more question?
Absolutely.
Just the Fourth Amendment layout, we have Laura and the Torrington Tax Collector LLC listed on the contract. Why are both the person and the LLC listed on the amendment here this way?
Because the Torrington, the TTC LLC is the tax collector agency that provides all of the resources, the funding, so that tax collection can be done seamlessly. And Lana Gosley is the appointed tax collector. So we do this in 2 points. She's on the contract as those tax collection services are being provided by Lana Gosley and TTC LLC. However, at the same time we do this contract, we also do, because statutorily we are required to appoint or elect a tax collector. So she provides the service under this contract, but then we also appoint her to be the appointed and established tax collector.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. I'm going to move into item 11, call the motion. There is still time for more discussion if necessary. So the motion that I'm looking for is to approve the Fourth Amendment to the Tax Collector Services Agreement to substitute Torrington Savings Bank for M&T Bank throughout the agreement and increase lease payments from $350 a month to $700 a month through 2027. Is that what I heard you say, Councilwoman Ruette?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the motion. Do I have? Thank you, Councilwoman Ruette. Is there a second?
Second.
So Councilwoman Ruette made the motion, Councilman Iveyne made the second, and the floor is open for further discussion.
Why the bank change?
I think that was it for them internally. They just didn't like working with M&T anymore.
Well, lines of credit are subject to annual renewal unless they are given certain terms of renewal, meaning that your line will be renewed in 2 years or in 3 years. And at that point, the borrower could say, I'm going to go to another bank, get a better rate, get better terms, less covenants or different covenants. But there's a number of different reasons why you would want to switch banks if that's the case. It could be a pure service issue with M&T closing down there. It's less convenient. I don't know, but typically it has to do with the rate of the line of credit because it fluctuates based on prime plus a margin. It could be prime plus a half, plus 7.5, plus 1, could be whatever. And I think the line was actually more than that. So as rates have come up, it makes sense to refinance. And they probably needed more time to demonstrate the capacity to repay and additional liquidity. That's just normal in banking.
I can
Thank you.
tell you that it wasn't something that the city made happen. It was a business decision by
Yeah.
TTC.
Yeah, of course.
And they just came to us and said, we've made a decision to change banks, but the way the contract is phrased, we need to amend the contract. So it was their decision for
It's normal.
probably the reasons.
I used to do it all the time.
And I would add that Torrington Savings Bank did request that change in that contract.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Thank you.
All right, so discussion again, anything, any,
Are we allowed to counter? Or is this not the time to do it?
May I speak, Mayor? This is Lana.
Hi, Lana.
And I was thinking she is on the line. So
That's okay.
if there's any other explanation to answer versus.
Do you
She
want-
could be on the line, she could be in the audience, I don't care. I would propose what corporate counsel recommended.
so you do that as a
Motion.
sub-motion? Are you saying a sub-motion? Not 700 through 2027, but 700 through 2026 and 1,400 through 2027?
Yeah. But do we have to take action on Ann's motion
think
first, I
so.
believe? From,
We could close her out, yeah, we can close this motion out, and then. Is everybody okay with that?
Just one more question on a contract, is
Yes.
the date section, can we amend that to reads January? Could we amend that to February?
You looking at the Fourth Amendment?
Yes.
What paragraph?
It's at the signature pages.
The notary acknowledgement.
Oh, we'll change.
Oh,
all
yeah,
of that.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
doesn't
It's just-
share into this decision, okay.
Yeah. yeah.
All right, let me call this motion. All in favor?
Aye.
I heard 4 ayes and opposed,
aye.
Aye.
2 opposed. All right, motion passes. All right, move into item 12. So let me read the motion again. Do you want to hear what it was? So the motion was, as it's printed on the page, to agree to the change from M&T Bank and increase lease payments through, to the sum of $700 a month through 5 May of 2027. It wasn't made and seconded. They decided to close this
Oh, I
motion
didn't
out.
know that we were, okay, that's fine.
But it was never seconded,
We never asked either,
right?
But we needed to vote on.
but we needed to vote on your motion first. I get it. Okay.
I
fine.
think that procedurally, you could have asked Ann if she would
Rescind.
do a friendly amendment to what you
Yes,
wanted. She could
correct.
say no, and then you could make a motion to amend her
Okay.
motion.
I'm not gonna go through all of
I
that.
think the mayor short circuited. by
Anything's
saying,
better than
okay,
what we had before as a
Yeah,
city, so.
yeah. But the mayor just cut to the quick and said,
That's
just
fine.
vote on Ann's motion, and then if that fails, you could do another motion, but
Okay.
that motion passed, so we're
Thank you.
done, yeah. Okay. I'll reach out to, TTC's attorney tomorrow and let him know, and we'll finish up the documents to get the amendment.
Okay,
both amendments.
all right. All right, item 12, I'll entertain a motion to ratify. So I'm going to give you your options. You can ratify, you can deny, or you can choose to make no comment on the agreement between the Torrington Board of Education and the Torrington Public School Administrations Association for the period of July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2028. So I'm never sure how to call this motion. I am looking for a motion. Whomever's going to make it, you tell me what you want. Ratify, deny, or make no comment. And let me tell you what happens. If you ratify, you support it, it moves forward. If you deny it, they have to then go back and I think it goes to arbitration. And then the other option is to make no comment, and just by the process of the elapse of time, it passes.
Is it like a roll call vote?
It is no, it's whoever wants to make the motion, you tell me what you want to do. Do you want to ratify, do you want to deny, or do
I'll
you
make
want
the
to?
motion to deny it.
All right, I have a motion to deny the agreement. Is there a second?
I will second.
I have a motion and a second to deny. Open to discussion. Hearing none.
I thought that, looking through his contract, I was startled by, there's some rich benefits in here, very different than what the teachers are receiving. A lot of things like that. So I thought that I was questioning whether it was negotiated at all to do this, or is this just a template from a union group pushing this through the process? And I want to be careful that this was being reviewed, that things were being negotiated. Just looking at the sick time off, I just didn't think anyone was going to be offered that type of time off
Mhm.
in these positions. So I was startled by some of the elements inside this contract. I've never seen something like this.
Agree with everything you said. That's my motion.
Questions, comments?
Will you? Yeah, there's several things that I find, I just find it too rich. I think it is. What I'm not seeing, for one thing, Mayor, do we do this every year?
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years, okay.
Yeah.
'Cause it's been a while, I don't remember doing this in the past, okay. Well, if we're gonna go through this, so, number one, maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but it sure seems like, the leave time is very excessive. In a district that, is an Alliance School District and has been underperforming for a long time, it seems hard to justify these kind of benefits, to the leadership core, quite frankly.
Mhm.
Show me performance data that shows we are moving forward with significant improvement that we are going to move off of. Give me a timeline for moving off of the Alliance District identification, programs in place that support that, and then I would be more open to something this beneficial and lucrative to the administrators, okay? So I could go on but I won't, but I'll just leave it at that, okay? The second thing is this administrative reduction in force clause, Article 21. Mayor,
Yes.
is this putting back in place this riffing business? This is then kind of a seniority process whereby a senior administrator, if that position is eliminated or that school is eliminated, that administrator gets to bounce a less senior administrator.
So I see we have Kim Schulte and Donna Labby here from the Board of Education. And Kim Schulte is the HR Director for Board of Education?
Yes.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, how does this riffing work again? Article 21, this reduction in force clause?
Yeah, so it is based on seniority within the classification. So,
Wasn't that eliminated from the administrator's contracts about
10 years.
about 12 years ago? No, because I was
Yeah.
on the board at
Yeah.
the time. I was actually chairman at the time.
it has not been since I've been here.
Which is how.
It's been in the contract at least 7 years.
Yeah, I think it was 12 years ago, because I remember
So-
going to arbitration about this,
Mhm.
getting that eliminated. I was,
And we did not make substantive changes in this current contract. We just clarified some language.
there was, now maybe I didn't see this, but I know we fought for and we paid for going through arbitration to allow, excuse me, to allow superintendents to replace administrators as need be in the best interest of the children. That was literally put in the clause. And at the time, those representing the administrators were very upset with that wording in the best interest of the children. And the arbitration judge was quite shocked by their response to that, to the inclusion of that clause, why they would have a problem with putting in the best interest of the children in there. But, so if the school is eliminated and you've now got an administrator that you want to move, if the superintendent feels that that person must be offered the same position at a different school, regardless of whether or not that person currently in that job is considered to be doing a very good job.
Well, I think if the person was ineffective, then it would follow the normal teacher evaluation process to be able to address their performance for that perspective. But if they are an otherwise effective administrator, then it would follow the riffing language of the contract. There is always language within the Teacher Tenure Act about handling performance.
Yeah, once again, if a superintendent wishes to move Administrator A, who is currently in a school that's being eliminated, to position to another school, because he
Yes.
feels that administrator would be more effective at that school.
Yes,
Can he do that? at
yes,
her discretion?
yes. Well, it says that there has to be a meeting. That language exists and we didn't change that language, but that's language is already in the contract.
But if
That says that assignments are at the discretion of the superintendent, but there has to be a conversation with the employee.
Okay, but so therefore, even if the administrator at at school B is still performing.
Correct.
performing well, But
Yes.
the superintendent thinks that school A's
Yes.
administrator would be better, he or she has the authority to remove
As long as it's not arbitrary and capricious. Yes,
arbitrary and capricious.
because that's the key.
Okay, understood. All right.
There has to be a reason. There has to be some just reason.
Okay, well, that explains that part to me. I still object to this just because of, what seems to me excessive, leave time for administrators at a time when our school district seems to be underperforming.
And again, we didn't make any changes to that in this contract. We didn't make anything different than what was there. We didn't add anything that wasn't already there.
Understand, no, I'm off of.
And quite honestly, we did make some changes that kind of get to that point with respect to the personal time. So the personal time, we actually put a cap on their personal days.
Hmm.
So we actually did that as part of this negotiation. And again, the administrators, this was a mutually agreed upon a contract that we feel really works for both parties.
Are all administrators given, evaluation documents, by the superintendent every year
Or a designee, yes.
or a designee? And those are, fulfilled, but they are discussed and
Yes.
fulfilled every year?
Yes,
Every year?
they are given an evaluation in accordance with the state statute every year, yes.
Okay, is that in the contract that has to happen? Is it in here
Right.
someplace?
But
Okay.
it doesn't really describe, what the evaluation is.
It's statutory. So that's through the state of Connecticut statutes.
If is Article 23 talking about that evaluation? Or is it somewhere else? It wasn't clear to me.
Forgive me, I don't know it all off the top of my head.
Sorry,
Article
yeah, I think it's
23.
page,
They're just looking at
23 is
elsewhere
early
right now.
retirement.
23 is early retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
no, okay,
That's
then
what
I'm,
talking about.
okay, I'm
Yeah.
talking about where it says evaluation
13.
reports.
Article 13.
13.
13.
All right,
This is the same language as you've had?
Yeah, nothing. If you look at the last part of what you have in your packet, you have the summary of just the changes. It was very minor changes.
13, you're right. sorry.
Okay.
But they're not rated. And it's not like their performance dictates their increase. It's a mandated amount that is
Right.
predetermined by the contract.
Okay.
So if you're looking for merit, this is the wrong tree, Mr. Dog.
No, well,
I
yeah,
was
I
looking
know.
for that. So thank you
You're
for
welcome.
No,
explanation.
I know. That was always an issue. And I do recall when I was chairman having numerous problems. I don't want to go on the record, but
The
when
best-
these kind of evaluations were not were not conducted in what at the time the board considered, or some people on the board considered a satisfactory way. I'll just leave it at that. I've asked enough questions. My general sense is where Councilman Oliver is, I believe, in Councilman Iveyne. I just think, I think this leave issue is excessive. And it just feels like it's,
There's a sabbatical leave, 2/3 of base pay, sick leave, it's a year and so many days. We have a car allowance, these are, all look like rich benefits, very different than any other school teacher in the system. Why is it so different for administrators than any other person working in a school district?
They're actually consistent with other administrator contracts within the state of Connecticut.
I'm sure that's the case.
So-
But that's the problem.
I'm sure that's the
But
problem.
why is it different than every municipal employee in?
The travel stipend, for example, is for administrators, only ones that travel through multiple schools. And they were otherwise getting the IRS mileage reimbursement anyway. So it's not, it's really a cost neutral contract provision.
Yeah, I don't think any employee in the city of Torrington, any teacher, municipal employees getting these kinds of benefits. So, just those few things I mentioned seem really out of line. A year sick leave. How is that being structured? Do you have short-term and long-term disability insurance to?
We do have short-term disability available.
Yeah, and which is usually a percentage of your salary.
Correct.
What percentage are we agreeing to in this contract?
Nothing's changed on that in the contract that we just negotiated. We didn't change anything with respect to
Yeah,
that.
But usually, short-term disability is 65%. There's two different policies. It's usually not more than 65%. And what is this contract agreeing to in terms of?
For our short-term disability is at 100% of the cost of the employee.
For how long?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
30, 60, 90 days.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the insurance policy won't pay 100%. Your school budget will be paying 100%.
For short-term disability, you're talking.
No insurance policy is going to pay more than that 65%, generally because you're paying a disability insurance benefit and not have to pay tax on it. So it's excluding tax out of that. But this contract seems to be applying 100% to the employee for the sick pay, which kind of strikes me as odd. So you're agreeing to.
100%, I don't understand.
Short-term disability will cover
Right.
200% of your salary, and then it can step down over 30 or 60 or 90 days, but they can for the initial 30.
Uh,
Usually there's a 2-week waiting period.
I'm surprised because it's tax-free. The disability, it's an
Depends on who
insurance
pays it.
benefit payment
If the-
that's not taxed.
No, if you pay it personally out of
Right.
pocket, there's a tax different treatment, but if the district pays it, it's fully taxable income.
Yeah.
How many?
I'm not sure, is that,
administrators
Thank you.
Are
But-
under this contract?
I'm sorry?
How many administrators are under this contract?
28.
any other questions?
No, I would just like to make a comment before a vote, Mayor, if I could.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think, I remember when, I understand, I'm pretty sure I understand the process. If this is denied, it will go to arbitration, correct?
Mandatory arbitration.
Yeah, and there's a good chance we will lose, you will win in a mandatory arbitration, but I'm going to vote against the contract in the same sort of, in the same manner in which I voted against applying for the grant for the additional sod money for the Torrington High School. On the principle that I was even within my own party, I had people arguing with me and claiming that it was silly of me to vote against it because that grant money from the state would simply go to another municipality. And my position then was that I understand that likely will happen, but I think it's time, I think city councils and people who are represented, who are voted to represent the taxpayers of their town have to at some point draw a line in the sand and say, grant money, I'll get back to the salaries, but grant money is still money from the taxpayer. And at some point, municipalities and people representing those towns have got to say enough is enough. And when a building authority like the Torrington High School Building Authority was given 160 million, which became, as you know, Mayor, because of my efforts and yours, to get them an additional 20, it went up to 180, and then they came back and asked for another 70 on top of the 180. I said enough is enough. Okay, enough is enough. And when I look at these salaries and I compare them not to other salaries across the state, I understand that's where you're going to fight your fight on arbitration, and I agree you'll probably win. But I just find it difficult, again, for these kinds of dollars to be paid for people who, quite frankly, in terms of looking at things through the lens of a meritocracy, which is where we are in the United States of America in 2025, start looking at merit-based pay, there's nothing to indicate that our administrators over the long haul, over the last 10 years, certainly since I was on the board, that we've made any significant progress in terms of our scores. You know, I'm just not seeing that. And I have asked, just so you know, and administrators here, I have requested repeatedly, ad nauseum, that your Board of Education leaders find the time to sit down with the city council and ideally with the Board of Finance and on a special meeting twice a year, just to discuss what is happening within your school system so we understand the full range of the complexities you're dealing with, okay? And yet I have never been able to make that happen. I've requested the mayor to make that. She has never been able to make that happen. And so consequently, I feel like the Board of Education is operating in this black box that we have no little window into until a moment like this. And I look at this and I say, compared to what other directors of other departments in Torrington are making, I look at some of these salaries and I say, if there was improvement, significant improvement that was moving forward, I would back off and say, fine, you pay for that. But I'm not seeing that. And I'm not seeing any explanation for why I'm not seeing that. Every year we're paying more and more and more, and I'm not seeing that. So on that basis, I feel, along with my fellow councilmen and women, I believe that this is excessive and I'm going to deny it. And I know you'll likely win in arbitration, but I would like the City Council of Torrington to say enough is enough. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Move the
Right.
question.
All right, I have a request to move the question. Does that need a motion and
Move
a
the
second?
motion.
Move the motion, sorry.
So you move the motion. Do I have a second to move?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of moving this motion?
Aye.
Ending discussion. All right,
Aye. Abstain.
and an abstention from Councilman Waldron. All right, then I'm going to call this vote. And just as a reminder, the motion is to deny the agreement between the Torrington Board of Education and the Torrington Public School Administrator Association for the July 2025 through June 30, 2028 time period. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
One abstention.
Drake abstained.
Did you abstain
Mr.
from
Waldron,
this
you
vote?
abstaining?
Yeah, I'm abstaining, sorry.
All right, so the motion passes and the approval is denied. All right. I have to move into item number 13. I will entertain a motion to extend the contract with Clifton Larson Allen LLP of West Hartford, Connecticut for auditing services for fiscal year 25 for a proposed payment of $97,300 as further explained in the quote dated February 6, 2025, and this has been approved by the Board of Finance. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman Spino, seconded by Councilman Oliver. And are there questions or comments?
What did we pay last year? Is it the same or is it increased?
It is increased. I think what we were paying last year was somewhere around 87. It is going up. For several years, we were late in our audits, and as a result of that, the auditing work is a little more intense. The state is always looking for a little bit more. So,
Is that the reasoning behind the increase?
well, it's inflation and the additional work that's required, yes. Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Other questions or comments? I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 14, I'll entertain a motion to extend the current bid contract for diesel fuel for FY 25-26 at the same price and terms as the current contract with East River Energy of Guilford, Connecticut, as further explained in the purchasing agent's letter dated February 11, 2025.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilwoman Spino, seconded by Councilman Iveyne. Questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 15, I'll entertain a motion to extend the current bid contract for gasoline for FY 25-26 at the same price and terms as the current contract with East River Energy of Guilford, as further explained in the purchasing agent's letter dated February 11th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Spino, seconded by Councilman Iveyne. Questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 16, I'll entertain a motion to extend the current bid contract for number 2 fuel oil for FY 25-26 at the same price and terms as the current contract with Dime Oil Company of Waterbury, Connecticut, as further explained in purchasing agent's letter dated February 13th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Spino, seconded by Councilman Iveyne. Questions or comments?
How come I can't get that price?
I know.
You need to buy more.
I know, 24,000 gallons.
I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 17, I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of additional items for the 2025 Polaris Ranger UTV that fall outside of the original RFP from Chavez Brothers Management LLC of Boca Raton, Florida, in the amount of $8,837.75. The original RFP was previously approved by the City Council in October 2024 and the Board of Public Safety in November 2024. The total original price was $41,426.99, making the new total purchase $50,264.74. The opioid settlement fund will fund this purchase, and it has been previously approved by the Board of Public Safety.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilwoman Spino, seconded by Councilman Iveyne. And are there questions?
What, was there a reason for the price increase? Was there like
Yes.
additions to it or something?
Yeah, so the additional items, this is a UTV, this is off-road, so that our police department can do responses up on some of the trails or in those more remote areas of the parks. The original quote did not include doors on the vehicle or lights, and I think it's the lights across the top, but also spotlights that can shine sideways. So anybody responding would be able to have a peripheral view.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 18, I'll entertain a motion to discuss the creation of a new budget line item. Actually, it isn't so much to discuss. Discuss the creation of a new budget line item to accommodate the city's obligation per Connecticut General Statute 7-294 D for payment of lateral transfers from other police departments during the training period.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilwoman Spino, seconded by Councilwoman Ruette. Questions? And I do have Erica online. It was So I'm going to paraphrase. The memo speaks for itself. The creation of this line item is an easier way for us to track how often this happens. To be honest with you, at least in the 12 years that I've been serving in this role, we've never had to pay out for a lateral transfer. However, there were 2 occasions that we were paid for a lateral transfer. We recruited, we hired, we trained, and then shortly after the training period, one of our police officers took a position in another municipality. This usually happens because it's a better pay or closer to where they live. But we do believe that the contract that was recently negotiated with the police department that made our police officers' positions more competitive with other municipalities makes us more attractive for these lateral transfers. So this is the first time we've had to deal with this. Creating this line item is a neat way for us to track how frequently it happens. And at the end of the year, what will happen is Erica has suggested that that line item will then be classified or reclassified into the correct line items. How much of it was for training, how much was for salaries, how much was for uniform. And that way, we have that clean track, but then it's charged to the appropriate line items. Are there questions?
But basically, this value reflects how much it would have cost us if we had onboarded originally. So it's really no difference. We needed to fill the positions, so this is.
Getting a
fair
trained
assessment.
certified officer, yes. And if this was a fresh recruit, untrained, uncertified, it would have cost us more.
True.
Okay.
If there are no questions, I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 19. On the recommendation of Fire Chief Borden, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to act on behalf of the city to award, execute, and administer a contract extension for the purchase of 5 sets of firefighter personal protective equipment at a price of $3,369.67 per set from Brigham Industries, Inc. of Paxton, Mass. The total purchase price is $16,848.35. This has been approved by the Board of Public Safety, and the purchase will be funded from the Fire Department capital account as further explained in our purchasing agent's memo.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman
Second.
Wet, seconded by Councilwoman Spino. And are there questions?
Is this to accommodate the new hires for the fire force? Or are we retiring a set?
Glad I showed up tonight. Yes, it is for our new recruits. The market on everything for fire service equipment is by manufacturers and market value. So the old standard way of a 3% increase over the years is long gone. The gear's gone up about 18% in the last 3 years. A lot of it's due to the global shortage and everything else like that in gear. So these 5 sets, actually it's a little bit more of an increase from our last percentage, and a great job by the purchasing agent to lock that in at 6%. Because a set of gear is actually more than that. It's about 3,900 for a new set. If I was to buy a set today, it's about 3,900 between 2 manufacturers or 2 vendors I've already asked about. So we got a pretty good deal on this set for these 5 sets only. We are going to be in the process of going through another RFP, which we expect to be $400 or $500 more.
Yeah. What, do you retire sets after
Other 10 years
10 years?
by NFPA.
Okay, does it
or-
depend on,
Or it gets to a point, in my position, 7 or 8 years, that the set's not viable to repair, because the expenses cost $1,000 to repair. We're getting a new set for $3,000 or $4,000, 25%. It's only going to last me 2 years. I won't repair that set. So that set may last only 8 years.
Okay,
All depends on who, like the bottom firefighters who are and lieutenants who are inside the buildings fighting the fires a lot. Their gear is going to be 7 or 8 year replacement, or my drivers, my battalion chiefs are 10 years.
okay. Yeah, there were some concerns over some materials in these outfits.
PFAS.
and, Is there any change to what the
Not yet,
competition?
not yet. It's still a volatile discussion out there on PFAS free versus the PFAS. A lot of the gear is embedded with PFAS after the fact, so it's, they'll be PFAS free, but then after the fact, it's not PFAS free.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, they get away with that kind of,
Do we
both
have
things, so
2 sets of gears for
there's
each?
2 sets.
Okay.
And
So-
our extractors to be delivered, which actually will clean our set. So that's the second set of gears that if there's a fire tonight, that we don't, that set of gear will be taken out of service, decontaminated and washed. Their second set will be put in service so they can be able to go on calls the rest of the night.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for the deputy? What was the big boom?
It's the ice expanding on the roof. So there's like big lake up there. So it's the ice that's like popping.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
And we're
Yeah.
not leaking.
Right. It's not leaking. Well, we'll
Yet.
find out when it thaws. That's
Thank
Jamie's
you.
problem.
I appreciate that.
Expanded.
All right, if there are no other questions, I'm going to call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 20, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the mayor to negotiate and execute a land exchange between the City of Torrington and R&R Corporation in Harwinton, Connecticut, after a favorable recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So moved.
Thank you. Councilman Iveyne,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Spino, and the floor is open for questions.
I had thought that we had voted on this previously, not too long ago, last couple months.
What you
Executive
voted
session.
on was to refer to planning and zoning
Yeah.
for their referral.
Oh, okay. So it's the same property,
Mhm.
all the same attributes.
Yeah, so your vote was to refer it to them, and they now have issued a report, Jeremy Lightford issued a report that it complies with whatever the plan is, I didn't read.
Okay.
All right. No other questions? I'll call the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 21, I will entertain a motion to approve the, Vertiv Corporation, to approve Vertiv Corporation of Westerville, Ohio as a sole source provider of preventative maintenance and battery replacement for the UPS power backup system at the fire headquarters. The cost to replace the batteries is $13,550.66, and it will be paid from the IT capital projects account as further explained in the memo from Director of IT dated January 29th, 2025.
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Councilman Waldron, seconded by Councilwoman Spino. And are there questions?
Just the term sole source, I look at it more in contracts, that means they're the only ones that do this? Looking at Penny or, oh,
Hi. Yes, for this particular equipment, the manufacturer Vertiv, they certify technicians, and they're the only ones that are allowed to provide any maintenance on that equipment. This is going to be the third time that we've used them for battery replacement.
thank you. I think of sole source more in a state contract. They use that term very differently. So only source provider, I don't know, but
Yeah.
anyway, thank you for the explanation.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 22. I'll do this in the form of a consent. I'm looking for a motion by the City Council acting herein as Water Pollution Control Authority to approve the payments itemized on the agenda to be paid from Fund 490, sanitary sewer capital improvements. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Sorry, I heard Iveyne. I heard Mr. Waldron, Councilman Waldron. Questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 23, I'll entertain a motion to accept the recommendation of the tax collector and authorize the tax refunds indicated in the list dated February 3rd, 2025 and February 18th. Thank you.
Second.
Councilman, was that, it's always Waldron that jumps the motion. Councilman Waldron, seconded by Councilwoman Spino. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 24, I'll entertain a motion to accept the recommendation of the tax collector and authorize the sewer use refunds indicated in the
So moved.
list. Thank you,
Second.
Councilman Waldron, second by Councilwoman Spino. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 25, I will entertain a motion to consider by business by department heads.
So moved.
I heard
Second.
Councilman Cavanero and I heard Councilman Waldron. Are there questions or comments? Oh, I mean, all in favor. Sorry.
Aye.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anything to add this evening, Deputy? Okay. Anything from WPCA this evening, Mr. Telsey? Anything from engineering? Thank you. Penny, how about anything from purchasing? No? Economic development?
One very quick thing. Thank you so much for your time with the MRDA presentation. We're in the throes of brownfield grant application season right now, which was due March 7th. And I just want to really quickly prep City Council. At the next City Council meeting, I'll be bringing some information about a very large and complex brownfield project we're submitting for the 100 Franklin Drive site. We'll be doing so the City of Torrington is in a kind of 4-part partnership with the property owner, NIDEC, the Brownfield Land Bank and New Colony Development Corporation, and the city of Torrington, and then also a potential developer. It's a lot of moving parts, but we're bringing NIDEC to the table in order to go after upwards of $4 million in remediation grant funding to not only remediate the property, but also to transfer ownership of the property away from NIDEC, which will allow for a developer to come in and revitalize that site. But I just wanted to prep you, the applications are due March 7th. The city of Torrington is not going to be submitting the application, so won't be requiring any approval. The Brownfield Land Bank will be submitting the application, but there are other factors involved. That's really all I have for you today, but I just wanted to prep and put that seed out there. It's a big, giant seed that will blossom. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything from City Clerk's office? Corporation Counsel? All right, let's move into item 26. I'll entertain a motion to consider business by mayor and members.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman Spino. Second by Councilman Iveyne. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll start from my left. This evening, anything this evening, Councilman Oliver?
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Cavanero?
Nothing for me, thank you. Take care.
Councilwoman Ruette?
Nothing, Mayor, thank you.
Councilwoman Spino?
Just one thing that, I saw that the siting council had approved that solar project on Lovers Lane.
They did, yes.
I just want to say how disappointed I am to hear that. And it's unfortunate that Torrington doesn't have more say in, these projects coming
In our land,
in our.
in our residence.
And if you go online and you look at what the siting council has under this project and the people who have put in letters of opposition or approval, there's one from a state representative in Westport, which just slightly infuriates me for somebody who has no vested interest in the city of Torrington to put, a comment out there supporting this, so.
Well, of course, it's not going in his town.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
He's on the committee that passed the original legislation. I think that was his interest.
Which site was that? Is that West Hill?
Yeah,
Lover's
Lover's
Lane.
Lane.
Then the West Hill coming up, right?
Yeah, the petition hasn't been filed yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk
Is there an appeal process or anything we could do there?
Yeah, let's talk a little more about this.
Okay. Yes,
Offline.
nothing else from.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
All right, Councilman Waldron, anything?
Nothing from me.
Okay, good. All right, let's move into item 27. I'll entertain a motion to open the meeting back to the public on agenda items only, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman Spino.
Second.
Second by Councilman Oliver. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anybody from the public wishing to address the council at this time? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move into item 28. I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to CGS 1-200 subsection 6 subsection B to discuss strategy and negotiations with respect to pending claims or pending litigation and include Corporation Counsel in the executive session.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Oliver, seconded by Councilwoman Spino. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?